Metro detectives investigating what appears to be a triple homicide in southwest Las Vegas. 3 people found dead inside an apartment this morning. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Latoya Silman. The suspect is in custody and police are still trying to figure out how and why this all happened. News 3's Tiffany Lane has been at the complex near far west near Flamingo Road, just east of Fort Apache for several hours now. And Tiffany, you actually spoke with some of the people who live in that area and they're pretty shaken up.
Yes, Latoya. Now this area is still blocked off. The entryway to this apartment complex is, and you know, there was a maintenance worker and 2 residents at this complex who were found dead earlier this morning. This has shocked neighbors, and it also leaves them wondering why this all happened.
It's very heartbreaking.
This neighbor, who didn't want her name identified, is worried and devastated after finding out 3 people were found dead in her complex Tuesday morning.
But you hope that things like this wouldn't happen in your complex because they are your neighbors, and a lot of them do become friends.
She found out from others in the neighborhood about what happened.
It's very sad to hear that there was some issue here. We don't normally have issues here in this complex.
Metro Police say a stabbing was reported just after 9. When they got to the apartment complex, officers met with a maintenance worker who said he was stabbed. The suspect was in the courtyard behind the leasing office and ran toward Flamingo, where he was taken into custody. He had a sledgehammer-type weapon on him when they arrested him.
At that same time, officers learned that that person was connected with an apartment and that the victim was possibly stabbed. The initial victim they contacted was at an apartment. They made their way up to that apartment where unfortunately they located the deceased remains of a female and 2 males.
During their investigation, Metro Police found out earlier that day the leasing office sent 2 maintenance workers to the apartment to perform a welfare check. That's when they came across 2 dead residents and the suspect.
A suspect who was inside, who was a white male in his 30s, immediately confronted them and began attacking them. 1 maintenance worker was attacked at the door. He took off running. He's the one that made it to the leasing office and told us what occurred. The other maintenance worker, we believe, is still inside the apartment right now, deceased.
The second maintenance worker who ran from the apartment is currently in the hospital. The 2 found dead in the apartment are a man in his 40s and a woman in her 80s. Police believe there is a relationship to the suspect, but are still investigating. While police work to uncover why this happened, neighbors are grieving. Many had only nice things to say about the 3 lives lost, including the maintenance worker who they say always had a smile on his face.
The maintenance worker that was here, he was friends. He was definitely a friend. He was just great. He was always willing to lend a hand, for sure.
Now, several of the residents in this apartment complex tell me that they believe the suspect is actually a family member of the 2 residents who were killed inside the apartment unit today. But again, this is information we are working to confirm from police, as well as other details we're hoping they'll reveal soon from their ongoing investigation that is now going on many hours. For residents who are trying to get in, they can't go through this entryway, but there is one on the side of the complex that they're able to go in and out of.
New developments tonight in the ongoing investigation into the death of an inmate in Henderson police custody.
53-year-old from Texas died from complications of a broken collarbone after spending 6 days at the city's detention center back in March. The man's family questioned the quality of care after the Clark County Coroner's Office ruled his death a homicide.
But Henderson police defend the medical attention that he received. Kristen Drummond is live in studio with the latest on this case. And Kristen, you have been following this one closely.
We have been following this one very closely, Jim and Latoya. Our News 3 team requested Ronald Winborn's custody records right here. And when looking at the jail log, it just does not match the timeline Henderson police are telling the public about his initial medical care. So now we're digging deeper into why tonight.
Get on the ground, you're gonna get tased!
The moment of Ronald Winborn's arrest. Body camera video from Henderson police show the 53-year-old running away from officers as they shout to drop the knife.
Put it down! No!
Seconds later, a taser stuns Winborn and he falls to the ground. Officers then restrain and disarm him.
I don't know where the knife went. It was a butter knife.
The officer with the taser catches his breath, pauses a moment, and makes this call.
Start medical. He went down good.
Henderson police say the fire department assessed Winborn, the first of 3 medical evaluations the night of his arrest, according to the department. After firefighters clear him, police take Winborn to the Henderson Detention Center.
During the booking process, Winborn was medically assessed a second time by the detention center's medical staff, who referred Winborn to the hospital for additional medical evaluation. Winborn was transported to St. Rose de Lima Hospital, where he was medically evaluated and treated for the 3rd time before being discharged back into police custody.
But jail records obtained through a News 3 record request don't document his off-site visit to that hospital. Instead, paperwork shows Winborn in the booking area before 12:30 in the morning on March 22nd. The log states after 4:30 in the morning, Winborn hasn't been medically screened yet, and he's in a holding cell. About 12 hours later, medical screen was completed. Winborn's then placed in a jail cell before going to the medical housing unit around 8 that night.
I feel that there's pieces missing that it doesn't make sense.
Brent Winborn, brother of Ronald Winborn, speaking with me June 8th via Zoom from Texas. He questions the timeline of his brother's care.
We just want answers. We want to know, because the scenario, the story that we've been given just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
The only hospital visit in the log, the trip to Sunrise on March 27th. Staff record that as off-site locations, also noting his hour-by-hour care. I emailed Henderson Police asking why staff did not document the visit to the St. Rose Dominican Hospital Rosa de Lima campus. The department's response: please understand, this incident remains an open investigation and no further case information or comments can be provided at this time. As for Brent, he continues to mourn his brother's death.
We're still absorbing the fact that it's actually real.
Our initial story uncovered Winborn refused most of his meals and medicine until his hospitalization at Sunrise, where he did die. We also learned that before he went to the hospital, medical staff documented for the first time that his left jaw appeared swollen. When I told this to his brother, Brent, earlier this month, he said that was the first he had heard of it.
The Cannabis Compliance Board bringing Nevada one step closer to our first cannabis consumption lounges.
Yeah, it's loosening ventilation requirements and finally issuing the first conditional licenses. And Brett Forrest joins us now live from downtown Las Vegas with an update on the new timeline.
Hey, good evening. So hurry up and wait. That really seems to be how this whole process has played out, doesn't it? It's been 6 years since we've legalized cannabis here in Nevada, but for tourists especially, they just don't have a legal place to use it. But now with these recent developments, cannabis industry insiders are optimistic that we may finally see these consumption lounges opening soon, even maybe by the end of this year.
So now that we have a conditional license in place, we want to open as soon as possible. We've done all the thinking, we've done all the hard work, and now it's just time to execute.
Christopher Laporte is helping Thrive Cannabis Marketplace, located near the Strip, open up their cannabis consumption lounge. One of just 3 locations so far to finally obtain a conditional license. It's a tall task since the world will likely be watching to see how Nevada's budding canna-tourism industry plays out.
You're going to experience what I call just white glove hospitality. We want to provide to you every form factor of cannabis there is, with food and beverage, entertainment with a great vibe. Neo Soul meets multiple decades of music.
In October last year, the Cannabis Compliance Board issuing 40 prospective licenses. Those holders must prove they check all boxes of a lengthy requirements list before getting a conditional license. The process has been drawn out.
It's been a long partnership between the industry and our regulators, making sure that they're creating viable business opportunities for canna-tourism.
Still some steps to go for the 37 prospective license holders, but for the 3 conditional licenses, like Thrive Cannabis Marketplace, October is their new timeline to open, just in time for the MJ BizCon Cannabis Expo.
We're looking at 50,000 tourists are coming to Las Vegas to attend MJ BizCon. We have to have a cannabis social use lounge for 50,000 tourists to legally consume.
And it's not just for tourists. Locals also looking forward to the cannabis consumption lounges.
But the hotels, sometimes they'll fine you in their rooms or they'll ban you from their property. So I feel like it gives you somewhere to go to smoke. You know, like as if like how they have bars for you to drink. That way now you have a place to smoke.
Now, you may also recall my reporting on the stringent air ventilation requirements and how these HVAC systems would have cost these cannabis lounges $400,000 to install. So that was a big obstacle. They were holding off on constructing any of their lounges until those were amended. And last week, the Cannabis Compliance Board also loosened up those restrictions. They do have the authority to do that. So that opened up the door to also issue these licenses.
Just click below and subscribe to News 3. You'll get more stories that affect your community.